BlockShow is one of the very great shows that promote blockchain, and we as Deloitte promote blockchain, so it was without question. And we also have a long-standing relationship already. It's not the first time, obviously, that we're attending. So we think we get good returns, great networking, and you learn by speaking to people and innovative technologies such as blockchain. So that's what we're doing. First, blockchain is it's not being promoted particularly in one physical location, right? There's many people that promote and program blockchain in Berlin, there's Munich certainly, but also in other places. And the way that we work is also virtual. And in a blockchain environment, a lot of the work that you can do is virtual. So I like to think about blockchain as a global idea and a global initiatives that are being pushed forward with time. And as people learn and invest and see what can be done, ultimately all of the processes and the peer-to-peer platforms that are enabled by blockchain could have global relevance and global application. It's not so much about country-by-country solutions. But I would say that Germany is not, I don't know about the leading edge or where the leading edge is, but I do think that a lot of the conversations which we have in this country are extremely advanced, and we are pushing the envelope, boundary of the envelope in all of our client conversations. They are trying to do things which have never been done before. I think Deloitte's relationship with startup goes both ways, and particularly when it comes to blockchain, we do get a lot of innovative ideas. The value that we bring is connecting the startups to the corporates, because obviously that's where we have access. If you like, we're looking to nurture our own ecosystem and try to be a participant and also facilitator in the ecosystem. So with startups, yes, we go through startups ideas. Some of them we promote, some of them we launch also. We have people that have left Deloitte to start or join a blockchain startup. So it's a very vibrant environment. The startups also come to us typically for guidance in terms of how to approach, maybe sometimes even with a very set idea how to get that promoted and implemented in a corporate environment. And we do speak to startups and work with them not just in the blockchain area, but from a technology point of view. We launch the Fast 50 awards every year, which basically look at the fastest growing startups with the greatest technologies, with the highest potential, and we do that quite systematically. I like to believe that Deloitte was the first, because we have been doing this for 2 or 3 years. It is inherently very relevant technology for the Big Four, in particular if you look at audit as a concept. With blockchain, the transaction is the record of the transaction. Now it's a bit of theory and it hasn't been implemented, but there are certain scenarios where you say you don't really need the auditing industry at all. And blockchain will not be the only relevant technology here. There's other developments around cognitive computing and deep learning machines, which basically contribute to solutions in the field. But that, I think, is a big driver in terms of looking at disruption of one part of the core business. But then the Big Four are also increasingly focusing on new ideas, new business model, new operating models, both for themselves and then for our clients. And blockchain is typically not fully understood yet, so everyone wants to get involved to not miss the boat, I guess. The audit field is going through a massive transformation, perhaps not in the next 5 years, but certainly in the next 10. Most of it will be automated. Exceptions will be dealt with by humans also in the future. And I think that is the field of specialism going forward, these exceptional cases. But we already noticed today there's a lot of automation in big audits, and there's a lot of margin pressure. So you make less money, and more of it is automated, and that's a trend that will continue. Audit itself will not go away. There will be more transparency, but it will have to be brought about less by humans going forward. It will be more integrated into the system. We do see the perspective from both sides, and enterprises, there's no blockchain responsible, typical, because also you need to understand blockchain is a technology, is not a solution. And if it's applied across functions, you can get great use cases out of it. However, typically the responsibilities in corporates are defined in such a narrow way that no one says blockchain is the answer to my problem, or never mind whether it's efficiency gains or new business models. On the startup side, you certainly have the better ideas, the more innovative approaches, more creativity in that field, but typically less understanding of how corporates work or how to bring that creativity to bear and how to get traction. And that then in turn is the value of where we come in, because we try to understand how a startup person thinks, and we try to understand as our daily work also how the corporates think. So we bring them together and we facilitate the conversation, and we get involved and typically drive blockchain innovation in corporates, many times with startup support. I do think blockchain has tremendous potential, and you'd see the success here that people, success of your show here, that people feel that blockchain could be huge. You mentioned that the big fours are getting involved, and the IBMs of this world, and SAP, and all of the big guys are looking at blockchain. I think intellectually it's clear that it has huge potential. The question is, how can we best implement it? Because we'll do away with the middleman if it's done right. You don't need middlemen in transactions. That is a big transformation to the way that industry works today. And the second part is you need typically a consortium or an industry to agree on certain standard, like a blockchain standard or a platform of some sort. Take banking transactions and as one example. And as long as there's differing interest and the money isn't really following because of petty interest by one party versus another, that could be the downfall of blockchain. Will it go away? No, it will be implemented in more discrete process improvements and more discrete use cases. And I think ultimately people will see that blockchain has great potential. What we have today is also that people don't understand what it is, and it's not tangible, and you don't trust what you don't understand. And to be frank, understanding blockchain is very difficult the minute you get into validation and verification processes, right? If it wasn't for Bitcoin, people would be much more skeptical about blockchain. And Bitcoin is also obviously undergoing some changes right now in terms of, is it splitting, is it not, because you have competing interests there also. But I think Bitcoin has also the advantage of first user, because how many alternative currencies or cryptocurrencies are there, and how many of them are successful. While blockchain, I can readily name 4 or 5 really successful ones, and the rest, well, we'll have to wait and see, right? Yeah. But I do think it's possible that we'll take a step back before taking a step forward. I do think that each blockchain brings specific aspects to the table, and they are, depending on the use case and the application, I would carefully choose one over the other. You have to start with the use case. What is it that we're trying to do? To what extent do we know the participants? To what extent is security, an issue? It's always an issue, clearly, but to what extent can people get access and all sort of attributes, and we'll decide on that basis. How many transactions can be done per second, etc. Once you start scaling, it's all of those things. Smart contracts doesn't mean anything good for enterprises, because the contracts aren't smart and they are not contracts, they are pieces of code. So you're back to blockchain technology. Ethereum has attracted a lot of interest and could be possibly the most secure going forward, also because a lot of developers are making sure and trying to advance applications and use cases based on Ethereum. It is a little bit controversial because obviously it had some early failures with the hard fork, etc., which dented a little bit its reputation, no fault of its own.
DAO also.
Yes, and the DAO as well. So it remains to be seen. But I do think that Ethereum is one where a lot of corporate has shown interest, where a lot of corporates see potential to work with it as a tool. But whether blockchain will be successful, and it doesn't matter whether it's a Hyperledger project or Ethereum or Bitcoin or Dash or any of the others, really depends on what is it that we're trying to do with the blockchain, really.
Okay.
Well, our approach is we look at the use case and then we decide. We have very active conversations with clients. Should we go? So we agree that we build a proof of concept or pilot for a certain value proposition, and then we engage in really deep conversations. What are the pros and cons about using this blockchain versus that blockchain versus that blockchain? Sometimes the client agrees, sometimes they disagree, and we decide collectively. And sometimes we even build it in a way that we could change the blockchain later if we learn more. How the other big three approach these type of conversations and what their view is, I really don't know, because this obviously typically takes place behind closed doors, and I haven't seen any of the big four come out and say, we favor blockchain X over blockchain Y, and I wouldn't expect them to do, because it depends what you're trying to do with it. We like to promote proof of concepts, and we've been launching digital banks looking at essentially based on blockchain. A lot of these things are proof of concepts, obviously, but you have to make it tangible. You have to make the technology tangible to show people what they can do with it. And I think the use case that we launched are probably between 20 and 30. How many of those will be really rolled out? And some of them are really big ideas around platform identity management or ways how to change transactions in the financial services industries. We're not the first ones, and we're not the only ones to come up with these things, but you need to be able to demonstrate to your clients, which lack the creativity and understanding, okay, let's go through it. Let me show you what it would be like. And one of the things with blockchain is the user, particularly if it's an end user, doesn't really need to understand necessarily how blockchain works, as long as they believe that it will make them, that they don't need to trust the transaction, that it will take care of itself, right? But what's the user interface? And the user interface now is very much old school and needs to be a good website, simple to understand and not confuse the user, right? So some of the questions always stay the same. I do think that blockchain is taking off as a concept now. Late last year, the hype cycle is moving to a stage where people focus more on true applications, and let's make it real, let's make a difference. We need to save money, we need to make money, and it will come. And this year, I think infrastructure will be rolled out. It doesn't matter whether these are charging stations or anything, or ATMs, etc. We will see more of those, and then hence the traction will improve. And I think BlockShow could be bigger and better even next year.